Hey everyone, welcome back to Garnock Reviews, where today we're checking out Beagle, a 1991 Duffy 42 sedan. I say 1991, but only the bare shell exists from 1991, because in 2019 she was completely stripped inside and out. She's had all new wiring, new running gear, she's had new lighting, all new accommodation, and professionally painted inside and out. Following this rebuild, the US Coast Guard issued new documentation number, and she's currently set up for active commercial fishing, although she's not used for that at this moment, and she could easily be converted to a yacht finish. And at the time of shooting this video, she's up for sale for $599,000 through my good friends at Zeigler Yacht Sales, and she's lying in Jacksonville, Florida. This boat's extremely capable of offshore cruising and fishing. She measures in at 42 foot in length, but she's got a beam of 14.5 feet. And she's got less than 1,000 hours on the clock on her new engines. So as I step on board and make my way to the bow, I like how safe it feels as you're making your way up here. There's handhold on top of the superstructure, and then as you get closer to the bow you've got the outside guardrails instead. This one does have non-slip deck material and it works great. At no point did I feel my feet slide while I was walking along. You'll see on the deck or the coach roof we do have a number of opening hatches for the accommodation down below. And as I make my way to the bow, you'll see that we do have an electric windlass here. This can be operated at the bow itself, but it can also be operated at the helm. There's also a capstan here, as well as multiple deck cleats. And I like how the anchor's on a bowsprit, in that way that keeps the anchor free from the hull whenever you're doing the launch and retrieval. And as I pan the camera around, I also like the fact that this one's got a low air draft for a boat of its size. So if you do have any concerns with bridge clearance, that's not an issue with this one. And as I make my way aft down the starboard side, we do have door access that leads straight to the helm, which is always great if you're going to be single-handed operations when it comes to docking and close quarter manoeuvres. And you'll also see up on top we've got a commercial grade life raft installed as well. Now this one's been designed for commercial fishing. Should also make a great charter boat. The aft cockpit on this one is massive. It's free of any obstructions, so that way you can prioritise in fishing and bringing the fish on board. On both the port and starboard side we do have rod holders integrated into the hull. We've also got a deck wash system. And although you can't tell in the video, this one is well illuminated, so you could do night fishing as well as day fishing. And then for bringing that large catch on board, this one does have the transom door, and as I open that you should be able to tell this one's got underwater lighting as well. And there's actually controls at the dash where you can change the colours of the light, as well as the intensity of them. And this one benefits from not having a bathing platform installed, that way it doesn't have any obstruction for bringing the fish on board. But if you were looking to do this as a yacht finish, she's got a great transom for it if you preferred. And then as I pan the camera around, you'll notice we've got the two access hatches on the deck. The one nearer the stern, that gives you access to view, inspect and service all your steering gear. But the one that's closer to the accommodation, that one also doubles up as storage, or it can be used as a fish hold. It's well insulated, and also like the fact that it's in a central location, so that way you don't need to worry about weight distribution. And then if we step inside, this is unlike any other commercial vessel I've ever been on before. This one is far closer to being a yacht finish. There's great headroom in here, there's a ton of visibility from those large windows, and most of the windows you see are actually opening, so you've also got extra ventilation if you need it. We've got L-shaped seating in the port side, and this table drops down and can be used as a double berth if you need it. We've got a well-equipped galley on the starboard side, and there's a number of storage drawers, cabinets and lockers. And we also have an electric Force 10 oven with a 3-burner stovetop. And for preparing meals at the galley, I really like how much headroom you have, but how much artificial light as well as natural light. That way it doesn't matter what time of day it is or what the weather is outside, you can always prepare hot meals for you, your crew and your guests on board. You got a deep stainless steel sink, you get 12 volt pressurised hot and cold water. There's a great deal of countertop space, which that way you can have things like your George Foremans and air fryers and things like that we've all become accustomed to at home. And then as part of the galley setup, we do have this fridge, and the fridge also has an ice box in here as well. And next to that there's a small storage compartment, and in here you'll see just a fraction of the paperwork and documentation that goes with this one. Since it's rebuilt in 2019, all the service manuals are available, and it just allows you to take over ownership with so much more confidence knowing how everything operates on board. As you can see, we have two very comfortable Helm seats installed. These give you great comfort and support regardless of the sea state. And if I head over to the port side, there's a storage compartment behind the seat itself, and this would be an ideal place to store charts for navigation, but it's currently being used to store life jackets instead. And speaking of charts, I like the fact there's as much space here. If you wanted to lay all the paperwork out, you've got plenty of workspace here for plotting your course, as well as tracking any logbooks and documentation that you may need to do. And as I make my way over to the helm on the starboard side, nothing about this helm says 1991. You can see the shine from all the fiberglass, as well as the shine from the woodwork that's been freshly varnished. And as I focus in closer, you'll see we've got digital throttles. You've got your full engine instrumentation from Cummins. Above the engine instrumentation, we've got the windlass control. We've also got the stereo control. Then you've got the SIMRAD. This is the autopilot. It's an NAC3 AP48 unit. On the top corner there's an ICOM VHF radio. And then we've got two multifunction displays. On the starboard side is a Garmin plotter radar sounder, GPS map 76 series, and this has got a 48 mile radar. And then on the left hand side we've got the SIMRAD plotter sounder 3D NSS Evo 3. And then we have a second ICOM VHF radio, and this has been set up so that if for some reason one system goes offline, the other one should be able to take over. And from the helm you can see that we've got great visibility, not only ahead but also astern, so that we, especially if the doors were open, you could keep in touch with the crew on the aft deck, and also for when you're doing your close quarter manoeuvres. A few short steps takes you down to the accommodation, and this is where you're going to find the crew accommodation. It's got kind of like bunk bed effect, with storage underneath that bottom berth. We've got rod holders mounted onto the bulkhead, and this boat's got some of the best woodwork I've seen on any boat featured on my channel so far. And then we do have hanging locker space, but as you can see this one's been used for storage. A combination of spare parts, but also you can see that here's a big filing cabinet full of all the documentation that goes with the boat, should you be fortunate enough to buy it. On our starboard side, your main breaker panel, and that also includes controls to the Northern Lights 12 kilowatt generator. And the generator was also installed in 2019. I'm not sure if you can pick it out on the screen, but at the time of filming this, she had 941 hours on the clock. And I like how clear everything's labelled on the breaker panel, including breaking up the air conditioning into separate units. Easy to know what's tripped, or easy to know what to switch on and off. Next up's the head compartment, and I always like it when the toilet and the shower is separate. Gives you far more space to use either. And there's plenty of storage in here for all your toiletries and personal belongings. And we do have portholes for natural light, but there's also plenty of artificial light in here. And then moving forward, this will take you into the owner's cabin. This one's got a centerline queen size berth. I like the fact it's easily accessible from either side. This cabin also boasts a very large overhead hatch, which is great for light and ventilation, but it's also great as an emergency access point. And to be as far forward on the boat, I was really impressed with how much headroom we had here. I'm 6'2" and I had no issues at all. We do have storage lockers on either side of the cabin, but we've also got storage underneath the bed itself. And throughout the entire boat, all the locker doors and cabinet doors, they all have this great way of opening and closing so that it's safe and secure when the boat's underway, especially for a boat that's been designed for offshore fishing. And then finally that takes us to the engine compartment. The easiest way to access the engine is underneath the floor in the main saloon. Now my first impressions when I was accessing the engine room was actually how clean and dry the bilges are. I was also impressed with just how bright the engine room is. It makes it very easy for doing any sort of servicing, maintenance, repairs, especially if you're doing it out at sea rather than tied up in the dock. And as for the engines themselves, you're looking at a pair of Cummins QSB 6.7 diesel engines. These were installed in 2019. They've got approximately 419 horsepower each, and they've got around 900 hours on the clock. And the owner cruises at around 14 knots, but in the right conditions you should expect speeds close on 25 knots as a top end. But as you can see, these engines are presented in exceptional condition. There's no signs of any sorts of leaks or issues to be concerned with. And being that they are Cummins, that makes it far easier for getting any maintenance wherever you're travelling. You also see we've got easy access to the filters, the fuel and oil water separators, and then we've got the generator back here too. And it's just laid out in a way that inspires confidence to head offshore without having any fears and concerns over the reliability. But as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. If you could go ahead and leave a comment down below. If you haven't done so already, if you can hit that like and subscribe button, it really does make a difference. I'd like to thank Mark for the opportunity to come on board and share this one with you, and I'll look forward to catching you on the next one. Thanks everyone.